The Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. Just how powerful is it really? Let's find out. Let's rock it. Oh yeah, welcome. I am the Real Brian. Thank you so much for joining me here today. You know, you never know what you're going to get here, but I know we're going to be talking about the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. But a huge shout out to my cousin, Pup Sweet. Huge shout out and a special thanks. This here is Sniffles. He's a superhero, by the way. Clearly, he's got the cape, he's got the belt, you know, the S for the Sniffles, the mask and everything. The only thing he's missing, which we're going to do, is put a TRB, the Real Brian logo here on the back. It's going to be amazing. My cousin Pup Sweet made this for me. It was awesome. The talent of an 11-year-old, I got to tell you. She's incredibly talented. She's amazing. And so, Pups, you rock. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let's dive into the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power. This is an initial reaction. I'm going to keep this short. I'm going to keep it to the point. We're not going to dive in too deeply. But overall reaction, I got to say, I was impressed. I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, actually. It's a lot better than I thought it was going to be. There was a lot of worry out there. A lot of people were talking about it from the previews and just from some of the stuff they were reading, and they were going to say, this is going to suck. It's going to plain out suck. It's going to be a freaking dumpster fire. It's you know, whole mess of trash, right? It's going to suck. No, we don't like that. No, it was better than I thought. They were wrong. Now, granted, I'm not a Lord of the Rings purist. I have not read all the books. I do have the Silmarillion, and I actually do want to read it at some point, so, you know, hopefully I will. Now, is it as good as the original trilogy? Absolutely not. Not even close, really. The original trilogy is a masterpiece. The books, from what I have read, are a masterpiece. This was decent. This was good. There were some concerns that were voiced, and so let's talk about those a little bit, because a lot of people have talked about them, and so why not we dig into them a little bit. The first one for me, the elves just aren't right. They're just not. I mean, even, again, if we compare it to the way that Tolkien wrote them. Now, granted, you got to understand here, Tolkien created an entire world with rules, and he created this entire race of elves, and he wrote the entire language from scratch himself, right? So he had a vision for these elves, and it was pretty awesome. Well, if we look at how they were written, I'm going to read this to you. Elves are described as tall, agile, graceful, wise, fair, and they have a pale complexion. They're composed, regal, respectful. I would even consider them to be somewhat Vulcan-like if you're a Star Trek fan. And so that's not really the case in this show, is it? I mean, they changed them. And granted, let's get that out of the way. Elephant in the room here. Don't get me wrong, by the way, on some of these characters. Arondir is one of those characters that I know a lot of people had a concern about in the beginning because he is not pale-skinned. Well, I got to be honest. I like him. I like his character. I like the actor. I think he's doing an amazing job, and the character's really grown on me, and I actually enjoy having him in the show. So he's great. But if we're going to stick to the rules in the world in which Tolkien created, technically he doesn't fit. So it's on a technicality, but that's why I can see why some of the fans are really riled up about this. But let's even move further on beyond that, right? Let's just even go into the fact that they're tall, agile, graceful, wise, fair, respectful, all of that. That wasn't necessarily the case. In fact, I was really surprised by that because some of them were arguing a little bit. Some of them were being a little disrespectful at times to each other. There was definitely immaturity going on with some of the elves. There was some insubordination, even impetuousness, which I just kind of found very interesting because, you know, again, how the elves are described and in the original trilogy, they're not like that at all. They're very much like Tolkien wrote. And so to me, and oh, by the way, most of them aren't even tall. So the elves to me seemed like humans with pointy ears. In fact, it actually felt like I was watching a half human, half elf race that wasn't really an elf race. So to me, the elves weren't elves based on how they're supposed to be written and all that. And again, that's based on the purest technicality issue. It doesn't take away from my enjoyment per se, because I'm actually enjoying the characters. I am enjoying what they've done with them, but they just don't seem like elves. They just seem like a different race, unfortunately. So that's my perspective. Elrond, I think, is doing a decent job trying to be an Elrond. I think, you know, on some hand, he's doing really well. And on other hands, it's just not quite there. The other thing that kind of got me was that he was talking about, you know, seeing the dwarves, and the dwarves serve salted pork. I thought elves didn't eat meat. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with it. I am intrigued. The soundtrack, and I'm always going to bring this up because I'm a musician, and so I notice this stuff. No, it's not Howard Shore. It is nowhere near as good as the original trilogy, once again, because, you know, Howard did individual themes for each of the different races, and it was incredible. He was very unique with that. And this soundtrack it's good, but it's nowhere near that level. It's nowhere near that level of detail and in my opinion, that level of creativity. But it's good, it's enjoyable, and yes, certain races do have kind of their little themes and stuff like that, and so I am enjoying it. One other thing I noticed is that the acting is not quite as good as I would have expected. It's still good, but it's just, there are some times where I'm like, okay. And there are other times where it's really, really great. So, and I'm not sure if it's acting or if it's maybe character writing or character direction. You know, you never really know. It could have absolutely nothing to do with the actors. It may have everything to do with the direction and the writing. I'm not sure. But some of the characters don't feel entirely natural yet. And some of them don't feel like they have chemistry yet, which I'm still waiting to see. You know, the original trilogy, you got to know the character and you saw the chemistry that happened between the characters. To me, that hasn't happened yet. I think it's worth definitely checking out to see what you think of it. Hopefully you'll like it. But let me know what you think in the comments below, please. I would like to know your thoughts. You're going to definitely catch things I won't. So put them down there. Tell me what you thought. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What else did I miss and I didn't talk about? What are you excited for? What are you not excited for? I know this is a lot of questions, but I'm giving you options here. I want to know what you think and get as detailed as you want. And let's have a conversation. Let's get that going. Last thing I'm going to say here, the stranger at the end, is he Dunedain? I guess we'll find out. Thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. Look, if you are a multi-passionate or curious about life and a lot of things like me, hit subscribe and join me because we're going to be exploring a lot of various topics. We're going to be doing a lot of reactions to a lot of things. We're going to keep it short. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a glorious day. I'm signing off.